What's the greatest sacrifice you think you've had to pay, Dominic, to be a world champion? Because I know not only you sacrificed time, I mean, you weren't out doing what everybody else was doing so you could be a champion. What's the greatest sacrifice you think you've experienced?
For me, the hardest thing to sacrifice has been relationships. I've lost a lot of relationships due to this sport and due to my goals. You have to decide. You have to make a bullheaded decision that nothing's going to stop you if you have a goal. And whatever steps in the way and might steer you off that path, that line has to be cut. And that's such a hard thing to come to. It's such a hard crossroad to come to when, you could love something more than anything in the world, but if it's steering you from your goal that is for your better life, your better livelihood, for your better future, there's a reason why you made that your number one goal. And this thing is taking you from it. That means this one relationship isn't helping you through that. So I'd have to say the hardest thing I've had to sacrifice has been relationships.
I think that's a good thing. We actually just finished last week a series called Friending, and last week was Unfriending. And we talked about how if somebody's pulling you away from Christ, if they're always leading you into sin, you're going to have to have some tough conversations. And, sometimes that's a part of the deal.
Which, again, leads to how similar the mindsets are. And the blueprints are all the same. That's what I'm saying. Everything's the same, except my focus was for a fight, and his focus is God. And it's the same thing. It's all the same. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and in this series, we're talking about how Paul says this is a good fight. I mean, fight the good fight. Sometimes we think of, I hate the way in Christian movies they always make Jesus just nice and, and it's soft, but it's not. And anybody that's been involved in a spiritual battle, they understand this is tough, man.
Excuse me. I think spiritual battles are the hardest ones because they involve your heart. Anything that involves your heart, your emotions, are the hardest things to deal with by far. Hence why relationships are the hardest things to cut to get to your goal.
So we talked a little bit about fear and faith. And I'll just share a little bit again, and I know you did this already tonight, but for next week, I'm talking about how you fight fear with faith. So you gave us a little bit of that tonight, but talk about how faith is what helps you overcome fear.
Excuse me. Sorry.
You okay, man?
My throat. I don't know what's going on. Been singing too much or something.
You've been what? Singing too much.
Just kidding, man. Not really.
Right after this, we're going.
Nobody wants to see that. What was your question again, man?
What was my question? Oh, fear and faith. How you fight? Oh. You already alluded to that a little bit tonight, but talk about how you fight fear with faith, because that's where I'm dealing with next week. That's the fight we got to be in.
Well, for fighting, which I'm just going to talk because that's what I know is fighting. I'm trying to learn this guy's notion of this guy's
and I'm going to learn
Christ,
how to.
Okay. No, you're not. No. Trust and faith. The antidote to fear is trust and faith. So that's something I don't know. I read it in a book and a self-help book that I have a lot of these books to try to keep my mind from going crazy. And I read it and it really just made a lot of sense to me. And it made sense to me because I get my trust and faith from my training camps. And that's the only way I'm ready for a fight. That's the only way I believe in myself. It's the only way I believe that I could or can be or am a champion is to go through the training camp. If I can't make it through a 10-week training camp, then I can't win the fight in my eyes, in my own mind. I know that. That's what the camp's for. And that's where I build my trust and faith. I go through so many rounds of just fighting different guys in so many different scenarios, and I put myself in the worst case scenarios you can possibly be in a fight. For instance, down in the corner of the cage, and there's a fresh new guy on you. You've already done 3 rounds, and this guy comes in on you, and he's on top in a good position, and you've got to fight out of it. And then a new guy's going to come in after that, and another new guy's going to come in. And they're all on the outside watching you while you get beat down by 3 different dudes. And there's really no winning, is the bottom line. I'm fighting 3 or 4 people. Well, when am I going to fight 3 or 4 people in the fight? Never. I've only got one person to fight. And it's only for 25 minutes where my practice is up to 2 hours. So I'm slowly but surely building my trust and faith in myself by going through these horrible, horrible, horrible predicaments. And when I get to the fight, I'm having fun now. Now I can smile and laugh at the guy because There's only one of you. You're a joke.
That's pretty cool. It makes me think of when the scripture talks about consider it pure joy when you face trials. And most of us, when we have a trial, we don't go, woo, this is great. But you've come to understand that there is joy in that practice with 3 different guys because you know the championship's coming, and we've got to learn that in our faith.